one of the first pillars of the growth mindset is you are not your law firm. The beautiful thing about this growth pillar, this mindset, this belief is the question of how do we take this essential skill in being a great lawyer and how do we just take little pieces of it and apply it to the business of running a law firm. The reason you don't have time now is because you haven't yet scaled. What you want to start saying to yourself is, I am not the best person in my firm to be doing this. Why is that true? The thing that gets you successful and gets you started in business is personal performance. But the thing that scales you in business is getting other people to achieve results. Welcome to another episode of the Law Firm Growth Accelerator podcast. I am going to be talking today about the pillars of having a growth mindset. What is a growth mindset? Why is it so important when it comes to scaling a law firm? 97% of law firm owners never get past the $1 million mark. And my question to you to kind of lead this off is, did any of those 3% of law firm owners who did make it past $1 million, did they have different opportunities than you? Did they have, different technology than you? Did they have different access to information than you? The answer in most cases is no, not at all. So why do 3% of people figure it out and 97% of people don't? And the one thing we're not going to be talking about today is genes, not, genes you wear on your legs. I'm talking about your genetics, because that's not within your control, right? If you've made the commitment to get into business for yourself and to start your own law firm, then it doesn't really matter what your genes are. We're at the point where you got to figure it out, right? What is the mindset, the difference between those who have figured it out and those who haven't? And what we're going to look at is the things that you do have within your control, not your genetics, okay? Not your natural born tendencies, skills, characteristics, or gifts. We're going to talk about the controllable controllables, okay? So first thing first, one of the first pillars of the growth mindset is you are not your law firm, right? Now, the beautiful thing about this insight, this growth pillar, this mindset, this belief is as soon as you accept that you personally are not your law firm, you create the identity detachment that actually allows you to grow, right? Because think about it. If you are your law firm, you're always going to be limited by how much time you can personally put in towards your firm, right? So if you work 60 hours a week or 40 hours a week, you're always going to be limited by that. That is going to be your constraint. And quite frankly, if you only operate in a world where you must be your law firm, if that's your belief, then don't scale a law firm. It's pretty simple, right? You should just become the best lawyer you can possibly be, start taking higher and higher value cases so your compensation goes up personally, and make that your strategic plan. Stop lying to yourself that you want to grow your law firm and have time freedom and have your firm run itself and, build your firm into a commercial profitable enterprise that works without you, which is the definition of a business, not a job. Don't lie to yourself, right? If you don't want to detach yourself from your law firm, then you should become an expert, and you should only become an expert, right? And this is such a identity limitation for so many attorneys because so many attorneys that I talk to, they want more freedom. They want more work-life balance. They want their firm to run itself. They want their team to create limited headaches for them, right? They want all of these things. They want to make more take-home income and have more free time. But yet when you look in the mirror at what it's going to take to get there, the first step is always this identity detachment, right? So I always use a hot dog cart as an example, okay? So let's say you are a successful attorney Joe Schmo, right? And you have, $50,000 in your bank account, right? And, let's say that you have a little more than that. Let's say you have $100,000 in your bank account. And you take $10,000 of that $100,000 and you invest it in a hot dog stand business, right? It's a local business that has 10 different hot dog stands throughout your local geographic area. They have 10 hot dog stands. They bring in X amount in revenue per year, and it's day one after you invested the $10,000, right? Okay. Are you the hot dog stand, right? Day one. Are you personally the hot dog stand? No, because like I use hot dogs as an example because like you can't be a hot dog. Like it's a product-based business, right? And it's such a it's such a simple business that you can very simply visualize you not being the one cooking the hot dogs, selling the hot dogs, deciding where to open the next hot dog stand or whatever. Maybe you do decide that. But my point is you can actually picture with something as simple as a hot dog stand, you not doing the work. You being an investor in the company that does the work, separate from you being the person who does the work or wrapping up all of your identity and meaning in your hot dog stand business, right? Which you would never do. So, unless, I mean, I'm sure there is someone, who's done that. But, I would believe that that's probably not the happiest life ever. So we want to detach our identity and ourselves from our business if we want to be in a growth mindset, because as soon as we do that, we are then freed to expand ourselves. We're freed to expand our impact. We're free to expand where we want to spend time and money, how we want to help more people in our market, how we want to scale our team, how we're going to multiply our time, right? Because there is no way to go from working 40 hours a week to 400 hours a week. There's only 168 hours in a week, right? It's impossible to work 400 hours in a week, but it's not if you have multiple employees, okay, 10 employees who each can work 40 hours a week each. 40 times 10 is 400 hours a week. So literally the first minimum requirement of having a growth mindset is that you are separate from your law firm. That is mission critical. The firm is an asset that works with or without you. You just happen to be the investor in it. Picture this, like play around in this with your mind. Pretend that you were the investor in your law firm and start today, write a contract to yourself as though you are now the lead investor in Joe Schmo Law Firm Inc., right? Pretend that and just play around for one day and ask yourself, if I just invested money in this law firm and I had no tie to it, what would I tell this person? Where would I invest this money? Where would I invest this time? How would I expand the business? How would I expand our value we provide the clients? How would I expand our marketing strategy? How would I expand our sales? And really detach yourself from it and start treating the company as a separate asset, okay? That's first. Number two, and this is hard for people to get, is understanding that letting go is the ultimate power move, right? If you ever watch The Godfather, right? The Godfather is usually the quietest man in the room, right? It's the quietest person in the room. Very rare will you ever see the Godfather raise his voice. He talks like this. He talks very quiet and he puts his hand up like this, right? When you have power, you're able to let go. You're able to let other people do things. You're able to have conviction in the power that you have, so much so that you don't have to prove that power, right? You're able to kind of be more behind the scenes. You're able to let things work as they should work. And when things get off track, you have built up a reputation both internally with your own self, but also with those on your team, that if things get off track, so-and-so is going to dive in and so-and-so is going to address them and permanently fix them, right? So even though this person is not, fully in it, like fully in the day-to-day, this person, you, always steps in when the time is right, always knows how to redirect resources or time or decision making across the team or the company right when it's needed, right? So letting go is the ultimate power move. Now, think about how opposite this is from law school, right? So law school, you are taught to not let go of anything. Every single piece of information that you learn in law school, you have to grab onto as though it's like your the only water that you're going to find for the next, 20 days, right? You grasp onto everything because you never know if during your bar exam, if that piece of information is going to come up, right? So you're in this like grasping every piece of information, everything you have to personally master yourself. So in law school, you're really hardwired to not let go. You're really hardwired to hold on to everything, to grasp on, to not let go in any way, shape, or form, because you have to be the personal expert. When you become a team expert, you then are able to let go. You're able to let other people be the ones who grab on to everything, and you're able to almost control their grabbing a little bit. If someone's grabbing on a little too hard, you're able to tell them to loosen up. If someone's grabbing on too light on their roll and getting a little soft in terms of their focus, you're able to ramp it up and tell them to focus more, right? So letting go is the ultimate power move. And to let go, a big insight I've always come back to is don't delegate tasks. Instead, delegate authority, right? Don't delegate tasks, delegate authority. Delegate outcomes, delegate results and authority to those results, right? Get really good at getting clear on the result that you want in your mind and then having other people responsible for achieving that result, right? And it's so odd because the thing that gets you successful and gets you started in business is personal performance. But the thing that scales you in business is getting other people to achieve results. They say that managers are defined by the results their team gets collectively, right? So the best manager, the best business owners are the ones that are able to have their team generate results for them, right? If you look at a sports team, if the head coach has 100 losing seasons in a row, what's the chance that that head coach is still going to be head coach? Very, very slim, right? Because ultimately the coach's success is a reflection of the team's success, right? And vice versa. The team's success is a reflection of the coach's success. So if there's losing season after losing season after losing season, that coach is going to be let go, right? And sometimes attorneys have to fire themselves from the way that they've been doing things in the past. If it's not working, it means you have to change, right? And it's so counterintuitive that letting go and letting other people own the results that you want to accomplish in your firm is one of the most powerful ways to scale yourself, scale your firm, and scale your results, because now you're not limited by your own time and your own input. Okay, if you're not selling, you're stalling. Okay, this is a third big limiting belief in the legal industry that I think creates a growth mindset barrier, is the whole concept around sales. I try to put this a million and one ways. The only thing that makes a law firm a legitimate law firm, other than you creating an LLC, is you having top line revenue. Okay? In businesses, they interchange these two words, revenue and sales. Okay? If you don't have revenue, if you don't have sales in your law firm, you don't have a law firm. If you don't have clients who are paying you or that you're receiving value from on a contingency fee basis, you don't have a law firm. You're not making any impact on anyone. You are failing, okay? And you should close down your law firm if after a certain period of time you're not making any money from it, okay? So if you are not selling, you are stalling. And this is why prioritizing sales is one of the most important things that you can do, okay? Now, you did not go to law school to learn sales, okay? But think about it. What are the things that make great lawyers great, okay? Do they have to be a little bit persuasive? Let's say trial lawyers, right? If you're a great trial lawyer, do you want to be really good at scaring people away and pissing people off? Or do you want to be good at captivating an audience, right? Captivating a jury and being persuasive in how you convey your points, right? So if you really look at it, even the specialists lawyers, the ones who don't scale businesses, the ones who are great at the law, you have to be somewhat persuasive to convince your clients of the right outcome and the right course of action, to convince a jury of the right course of action, right? To win cases, right? So If that is true in the actual lifeblood of being a good lawyer, right, then it begs the question of how do we take this essential skill in being a great lawyer and how do we just take little pieces of it and apply it to the business of running a law firm, right? So you didn't go to law school to learn sales, but as soon as you are armed with all of this legal intelligence, right, you now must learn sales to become a great lawyer, but also to scale your law firm, right? Now, sales, as I look at it, is revenue generation within a business. Like if you, again, detach yourself from your business, I want you to look at sales as simply revenue generation, right? Now, I always say, it is impossible to get a return on investment from marketing without sales, right? Unless you have an e-commerce based law firm. That's the only alternative. And by the way, there are some firms that do this, like you can do like online wills, online trusts, stuff like that. So it does exist in some very nuanced niches of law. But for most law firms, someone has to hop on the phone and talk to you to buy your legal services, for either you to vet them to make sure they have a legitimate case, or for you to get them to pay you a retainer or down payment, etc. Okay? So if that is true, 100% of your ROI will be determined from your ability to sell or your law firm's ability to sell, right? So I put sales as a higher importance than marketing because you can't get an ROI from marketing in most law firms, 99.9% of law firms. You can't get an ROI unless you learn how to sell, right? Now, as soon as I say this, a lot of attorneys go, "Oh, I don't want to sell," I let my clients make their own decisions. I let them da 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 da. Okay, well, let's talk through this. If your client already knew what was best for them, would they have already done it? Yeah, of course, right? If your client already knew what was best for them, they would have already done it. Why didn't they already do it? Because they need an expert like you. You're the expert, right? So when you are selling or your team is selling to a client, you're not, twisting their arm and begging them to buy from you, right? You're convincing them you're persuading them, I should say, on making the best possible decision for their future, right? Because you're the expert, not them, right? So shame on you, I say this tongue in cheek, if you can't convince or persuade a prospective new client of your law firm to move forward with the best decision that's going to advance them forward in their situation or their case or their life, right? Because you're harming them. So every single time that you let someone get off the phone and not choose your law firm, if you believe in the quality of your legal services compared to those in your market, if you believe in the value that you provide, and you let them off the hook and you don't ask them to move forward with you confidently and ask them objection handling questions, right, and closing lines, and embed this into your process, you're harming people. Because the chances are they're not going to make the best decision for them. Otherwise, they already would have. They wouldn't be talking to you, the expert, right? So sales is not just about you making more money. It's about you helping more people and you convincing more people of the path that's going to be right for them in the future to solve their problem, to solve their current situation. And that's why sales is really the lifeblood of you scaling your business, okay? So I want you to look at sales as you simply serving more people through clarity, right? I always tell my sales team, I don't care how many yeses you get. I care how many no's you get, right? If everyone you ask to buy says yes, that means you're not asking enough people, right? Or you're not charging enough, right? Or you're under pitching, right? You're not pitching the right. If everyone says yes to your offer, that means you're not asking enough or you're not pitching enough, right? You need to have people say no to your offer a lot. And this is what I call know your no. K-N-O-W, your no. Know your no. Know the value of every time someone says no, right? So let's say you talk to 100 prospects, okay? The average attorney is only going to sign up 20 of those 100 prospects if you're a marketing law firm. If you're a referral law firm, which is another huge constraint, maybe you sign up 80%, but that means you don't have a scalable practice if you're signing up 80% of your word of mouth referral leads, because you're just we call that practicing door law, is I'll take any client that walks in the door, right? That is not a good practice area. Door law is going out of business. Okay. So we want you to understand that if you get a no, let's say you have 100 people and attorney A gets 20 of them turned into clients, okay? I want you to ask all 100 people that reach out to your law firm that have valid cases. I want you to ask 100% of those 100 people, hey, are you ready to move forward with our law firm today? Would you be opposed to moving forward with us today, right? What reservations would you have moving forward with us today, right? Hey, at this point, I feel that our solution is aligned with your needs. Would you agree? Great. I don't see any reason why we can't move forward with this right now. Would you agree? That's a closing line. Is that pushy? No. That's called seeking clarity. That's called getting definitiveness, a definitive result from a call. Very simple, right? Okay. Next pillar. This is super important. Stop hiring mirrors. What the heck do I mean by that? Stop hiring mirrors. Okay. Most law firms are helper organizations. Okay. Your law firm, your name is on the name of the law firm. You know, Joe Schmo Law. I keep using Joe Schmo. Poor Joe. Okay, you have your name on the law firm, and it creates this helper organization where you just have all these helpers that are kind of doing miscellaneous tasks for you or for the firm, and everyone starts becoming mirrors. Right? They're basically mirrors of you. Right? They're people who need to be told what to do. They need to model exactly what you've done in the past. They basically are copycats, right? Now, think about this. How can someone be a copycat and provide multiplier level value to your law firm? You can't. Newsflash. How can you have someone just be a copycat on everything that you've done in the past and that you train them on and you want it done your way? How could you do that and then have multipliers enter your law firm? Like, the more micromanaging you are, the less multipliers you will attract in your law firm, hands down, right? So if your law firm is not multiplying in terms of growth, in terms of speed, in terms of impact, you probably don't have enough multipliers on your team. You have mirrors on your team. So replace your mirrors with multiple. And now you need some mirrors. You need some people that are willing to do a repeatable process that you've proven from the past and do that on repeat, right? But your firm is growing or not growing in direct proportion to the number of multipliers that you have. Multipliers are people that aren't going to do things the way you did them before. They're going to find new ways of doing things. They're going to challenge you. They're going to challenge the way that you've done things in the past. They're going to find new ways, more efficient ways, more powerful ways, right? They're going to get under your skin every now and then. They're not going to be, perfectly effortless to work with, right? They're going to speak up when there's a better way to do things, right? And in the book, How Google Works, Eric Schmidt talks about this, about hire the divas, just put them in a separate room, right? Now, in many hiring books, they say get rid of the divas, right? They say don't if anyone on your team ends up being a diva, get rid of them as quickly as possible, right? Well, in the book, How Google Works, they found some of their best software programmers and people on Google's team were divas. They were really hard to work with, but they were so talented that they couldn't fire them. So they just got an office for them in like a corner of the building where no one would interact with them throughout the day and let them be divas, right? But they limited their involvement with other people as much as possible, right? Now, I'm not saying you need a bunch of divas in your business, but if you can't embrace divas, chances are you're going to be working for a diva or you're going to be buying from a diva, because Steve Jobs was the ultimate diva, right? When Steve Jobs was an employee, he broke every rule. He was such an a-hole, so hard to be an employee, right? But look what he went on to do to impact the world with Apple, right? And every entrepreneur that's broken things and made big progress was a diva. So again, if you can't embrace the divas, just know you're either going to be working for one or buying from one in the future, right? So you need to figure out a way to get some of these hard to work with people that are change makers, that are disruptors in your business, to really provide that multiplier impact. And the other thing is graduating from friends and family, right? We get started in business. There's so many firms I've looked at that are just run by friends and family, right? Like your recruiting strategy is, who do I know? Who do I trust, right? And that's good. That can get you started in the beginning of business. That can get you to a survival state. But at some point, you have to graduate beyond that, and you have to go to a merit-based methodology of building a team, right? Like, you would never see a pro football team hire someone as their wide receiver for $25 million a year just because they're a family friend, right? You would never see a world-class quarterback get selected because, the person's your brother and you kind of trust them. But you see COOs and director of operations of law firms that have no experience in any operational leadership that are just family members that I trust. And so, again, when you detach yourself from this, you'll see the insanity, right? So you got to have some tough conversations if you have, I guess they call it nepotism in your business, or, friends and family, or basically just like, even when you hang your hat on average tenure, right? Like, oh, our average employee has been with us for 20 years. I always ask the question, great, so your average employee has been with you for 20 years. Have all of those employees been exceeding their performance goals every year for 20 years? Wow, that's so exciting. What do you think the answer is? No. Most times it's, okay, Susie didn't quit because she's getting paid just enough to not leave. I have no KPIs for her. I don't know what success looks like for a role, but she didn't ever quit. She's getting paid just enough to not leave, and we'd never replace her because it's too much complexity for me to have to deal with even thinking about that, right? That's when you brag about how long your team has been with you, like, is that performance-based or is that comfort-based, right? Because someone who's been with you for 20 years, who's upped their game every year and hit their performance metrics every single year, very, very different than you just having people stick with you for a long time. That could be a sign of underperformance just as much as it could be a sign of overperformance. So, understand that we want to have a merit-based business, right? We want our business to be an algorithm. We want the best people. We want the people who produce the best results to have the most opportunity in a business, right? So, and it's not about how hard you work. It's not about how diligent you are and how good of a person you are. It's about the results that you produce. Because I always tell my executive team, the P&L statement doesn't lie, right? Like, if we lost money in a month, like if we are at a net loss, okay, we could have 1,000,001 stories. Oh, this person didn't hit their quota. This person didn't do their activity here. This person didn't get their engagement up. This person didn't. Blah, blah, blah. The profit and loss statement doesn't lie. The business metrics don't lie, and they don't care about your story. What they care about is that you didn't do anything in advance of these problems that popped up, which caused the problems to pop up and caused us to not hit our numbers and caused us to experience pain and suffering, right? So that's so important to graduate from. Stop hiring mirrors, start hiring multipliers, okay? And here's the other thing I want to kind of tie this all together with is I'm too busy to scale. This is another big mindset limiter, growth limiter mindset, right? It's like, oh, well, I guess scaling means I'm going to have more clients. And if I have more clients, I'm going to have more problems. Oh, scaling means I'm going to have more leads. And having more leads means I'm going to be more busy. And, scaling means I'm going to have to deal with all these additional problems, okay? You don't have time now because you didn't scale. I'm going to say that one more time. The reason you don't have time now is because you haven't yet scaled. Okay? So you only have time to scale your law firm because the only way that you get your free time back is by building your firm to a big enough size to where other people can do the work, right? And you can divide this across every part of your firm. Like, you are not too busy to scale. You're just prioritizing comfort over growth, right? You're just prioritizing, I'm too busy within my current paradigm, within what I'm currently doing. I'm too busy. I agree with that. If you're still allowing yourself to go to court, if you're still allowing yourself to put out client fires, if you're still allowing yourself to make every single decision in the business, no crap, you're too busy because you are the bottleneck, right? So how do we change this? So you stop taking every call. You remove yourself from the intake process. You remove yourself from the case management process. You remove yourself from little itty bitty pieces of the decision-making process in your firm. You remove yourself from one little piece of your budgeting process. You hire people who are smarter than you in every area of the business, step by step by step, right? There is nothing that will prove to you that you have all the time in the world than hiring an A player, right? An A player will always create less work for you, more freedom for you, and more profit for you. Less work, more freedom, more profit, right? And there's different levels of A players, right? If you pay someone $50,000 a year, right, you can get A players within that salary range, right? Now, how different is an A player within a $50,000 salary range versus an A player who's getting paid $500,000 a year base salary, right? Oh, that's a whole different league of A player, right? So whenever like law firm owners say, oh, I have A players on my team, I have A players on my team, I'm like, great, at what level? What level A players do you have, right? Because there's always another level to defining an A player. There's always different levels to this game. And if you've never truly hired an upper echelon, legit A player and experienced the freedom that it gives you personally, professionally, even financially, time freedom based, money freedom based, if you've never experienced that, then you've never actually hired an A player. Because when you hire an A player, you divorce a part of your identity as an entrepreneur. What? What is he talking about? When you hire an A player, you divorce a part of your identity as an entrepreneur. When you are an entrepreneur, you adopt everything as your identity, right? In the beginning stages, when you are your own bookkeeper, you're your own billing specialist, you're your own client success specialist, you're your own marketer. When you get started in business, you are every role in the company. When you hire an A player, you're able to offload that part of your identity. You're able to divorce that part of your identity and let that person be that part of your identity going forward. And that's like the real thing that I'll kind of like tie this all together is like, you can't grow unless you are egoless enough to part ways with bits and pieces of your identity every single quarter, every single year. Right? If your ego says, oh, I'm the best person in my firm to be doing this, I'm the best person in my firm to be doing this, I'm the best, you're trapping yourself. Right? What you want to start saying to yourself is, I am not the best person in my firm to be doing this. Why is that true? How do I find someone who's better than me at this? How quickly can I get myself to the conclusion that I am not the best fit, the best role for every single thing in my firm? Don't build your law firm out of fear. Okay? Don't build your law firm out of what you did in the past. Don't build your law firm out of what you think is possible. Don't build your law firm out of reaction. We want to build our law firms from a place of proactive construction of the futures that we want. And I want you to start today and call yourself, put your name, okay? Let's say your name is Shirley Jones, okay? I want you to call your law firm starting tomorrow Shirley Jones, hot dog stand, okay? And I want you to pretend that your law firm is a hot dog stand business, okay? Detach yourself from the law firm and just pretend like, okay, if this law firm was a hot dog stand, what's wrong with our hot dogs right now? Oh, I'm doing too much of the cooking of hot dogs. I got to get someone to help me with cooking hot dogs. The hot dogs we've had a couple people pissed off about our hot dogs. So we got to go fix the way that we're communicating with clients, right? Now, we're not selling enough hot dogs, all right? So let's look at where we're marketing hot dogs and treat your law firm like a hot dog stand just for 1 minute. Just try it out, right? Because it's such a funny concept that you're going to start seeing how you wrap your identity up into every element of your firm when it's just so much easier when you detach yourself from the day to day. You're going to realize how much more time, how much more energy you have, how much more money you'll make when you can adopt this mindset. So in summary, these are the growth mindset pillars I want you to reflect on as it comes to scaling your law firm as though it were a legitimate enterprise business, like, a hot dog chain. No, it's not that legitimate, but you understand what I'm talking about. A legit business that runs itself. And I'll see you in the next episode. Stay great. If you found value in this podcast, here's one way I can help your firm right now. What if you could take all of our knowledge and experience helping law firms grow and use it to create a custom growth plan for your firm? I want to give you something special. I want to give you a free law firm 360-degree analysis. We usually charge $499 for this call, but you'll get it for free since you're committed to growth. Our team will walk you through the 4 steps of the law firm growth acceleration model and give you opportunities and fixes to grow your firm faster based on what we've learned across hundreds and hundreds of the fastest growing law firms in North America. Go to smbteam.com/360 to get your free analysis today.